This is our Audi TT endurance race car, and it's hard to believe, but it started life as a road-legal 2014 base Audi TT that ended up in the junkyard. We picked it up from a salvage auction, and fueled by racing hopes and dreams, we wanted to give it a new life. We saw the potential where others saw a wreck. This is the story of the M-Tech Auto TT. Look, the idea was simple, and step one, you see the potential. You know that rusting S13 or Miata shell that no one has bought? You see it on Facebook Marketplace. You wonder why, but don't worry, buy it now and ask questions later. Step two, you get your best buds to justify a terrible decision. Just say, come on bro, until they all agree. Step three, build it into a race car. And step four, something, come on bro, it'll be fun, we'll figure it out, yada, yada, yada. And step five is win races. It really is that simple. With the car in our hands, it was time to start the build. Our first job was to completely strip down the interior, and the name of the game was weight reduction. Next, we dropped the subframes to inspect and replace bushings as needed and changed out the wheel bearings. We outfitted the car with a 034 Motorsports rear tow arm, TTRS front control arm bushings, Powerflex urethane bushings in the rear, but otherwise everything was cleaned or replaced with OEM parts. We ordered brakes, a TT Cup Car replica body kit, and a flat carbon board that would soon become our splitter, and a few more aero bits. After the interior was stripped out, it was time to get the car off to our partners over at Midnight Fab for a full cage. In order to race, we needed a few things. Number one, we needed a full cage, we needed fire suppression, a rain/caution light, a kill switch, a proper seat and harness, and a racing transponder. With those items ordered and the cage finished, we got the car back to the shop for a fresh coat of paint on the cage and interior. Next, the car went over to our friend Kevin over at Chop Shop, where we installed a fuel cell and dry brake. At this point, there was still a lot left to do, but the basic skeleton was down for us to build on. Next thing up, we worked hard on thinning out the wiring harness to shed out any unnecessary weight. And now began the fun part, the rice. M-Tech Auto has a history with the Audi RS3 TCR factory race car, and they took everything they learned from that car and put it into this car. We decided on a replica TT Cup Car body kit, and it was time to bring out the saws and start chopping things up. At the same time, we installed the seat, which was a Recaro XL Club Racer, and wired the AIM dash. It took some work, but we managed to install the front bumper and the skirts quite easily. The fenders, of course, took a little bit more work. Engine oil, coolant flush, spark plugs, transmission fluid, and a new wave track diff were next, and it started to look like a real race car. Okay, maybe not, but you gotta keep convincing yourself and your friends to keep lighting money on fire. On the engine department, a tuned EA888 is capable of 300 wheel horsepower, but we detuned this to about 210 horsepower for heat management and fuel conservation. Of course, this car was meant for endurance racing, 8 hours long. Along with an HGL engine oil cooler, Racing Line DSG cooler, Racing Line oil catch can, we sealed and boxed everything off. We have never had issues with cooling. Following the recipe of TCR race cars, we opted to do an all-wheel drive delete, converting this car to front-wheel drive only for a few reasons. Number one, for weight management and to conserve fuel over the long 8-hour endurance racing. This part was actually more simple than we had thought. And for brakes, we went with the AP Pro 5000R 9668 caliper, which is the thicker 25mm brake pad. And in the rear, we just went with pads. Of course, we did fluids. We also did some brake cooling in the form of RS3 brake cooling ducts. Taking inspiration from the Cup car, we went with a single center exit exhaust. For coilovers, we went with AST 5100 coilovers, but we'll soon be switching to AGT shocks. To help the car rotate, a big ESC rear sway bar and rear tow arms did the trick. After the car came back from our friends over at C17 with a livery, it looked like our dream was coming true. It was time for the cherry on top, the factory TCR wing. Next, it was off to the dyno. We set our alignment to 0 toe in the front and a significant amount of rear toe out just to help the car rotate. Finally, it was time for testing. So everyone, we're here at M-Tech Auto, and in order to get this car ready for the 2025 season, there is a lot of stuff that needs to be done. And it's a pretty long list, right? We have to check every nut and bolt, replace anything that needs to be replaced, things like wheel bearings, rotors, pads, fluids, and more. And honestly, seeing the car in its salvaged form to what it is today is honestly surreal. And new for 2025, this car is going to be doing a couple of things. Number one, it's going to continue to race in the Canadian Enduro Elite series, where we do 8-hour endurance racing. On top of that, we're going to be doing some 40-minute sprint races, maybe in SPC, so Super Production Series, or in CASC sprints. Now, like I said earlier, this car is tuned to 210 horsepower, and that is great for endurance because number one, good for heat management. Number two, it's good for fuel savings. But in terms of a 40-minute sprint, we need the car to make a little bit more power to be competitive. So we'll probably run the 210 horsepower tune again for endurance, but this car is capable of over 300 wheel horsepower. And this year we're going to be doing upgraded turbos. We're going to be going with the Golf R turbo, and to go along with that, let me just show you guys. Let me just turn this around to show you guys. We have a package from CTS. So of course we're going to be doing their intercooler as well as their radiator, but there's some work that needs to be done just to kind of seal all this off to make sure that the flow is very efficient. And On top of that, we're doing some carbon work here just to make the necessary shrouds and sort of box in whatever we need to do to make it as efficient as possible. Honestly, guys, the journey of the TT has just begun. And honestly, shout out to M-Tech Auto. You know, if you have a BMW, Audi, Porsche, any car for that matter, they do race consult, they do maintenance, they do modifications. They're absolutely amazing. They're here in Thornhill in the GTA, so please go check them out. And this is the story of the car that we saved from the junkyard basically and gave it a new life racing. And now this car is at the front of the pack. You know, the memories that we've had with it, with all the friends here at M-Tech Auto, and building it means that we know every squeak, every rattle, every quirk about the car. And I'm really excited for the places that this car is going to take us. Like I said, 40-minute sprint racing, maybe even WRL, maybe even GLTC down the road. We hope to make it out to visit our American friends. Now, guys, go out there. You know, we never thought that we'd come this far with this car and to continue to keep going on and on and on like this. But again, it's been amazing. And so go out there, find a few buddies crazy enough to chase the racing dream with you, buy that salvage title, diamond in the rough, and get to work. And remember, step 1, see the potential. Step 2, never stop believing. And step 3, make sure you drag your friends into it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.